Welcome, everyone, to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. I'm Mike, just Mike. Along with me is Ron, just Ron. Let's see which episode we're on, Ron. We are in season 3, episode 13, number 103. We've slowed down a little since our first year. We're doing,
Yeah.
an episode about every couple of weeks, but we might get
Well,
back
we've
to
been hitting every
this.
week here lately, which is we
Yeah.
had kind of a little period there, kind of at the end of the year a little
Well,
bit where we kind of, but I'm getting back to where I'm wanting to do it every week again.
yeah. I had an ice storm to deal with back in February, and I wouldn't even have
Yeah.
electricity for 2.5 weeks. So that killed two and a
And
half
I have
weeks.
a 2-year-old to deal with all the time, so
Yeah, so there you go. That's the way it is.
so that'll do it.
The what we're talking about tonight on Boomer Bongo Boulevard. By the way, don't forget to subscribe because we love our subscribers, and
We do.
we get tonight and comment. Boy, I like reading the comments. It's so much fun when we look down and we've got a couple of comments
Oh
on a
yeah,
particular video, and that
be some
includes
pretty good stuff
comments.
sometimes too.
Sure.
I like when we get some new tidbits of info because of course, we don't hit everything because a lot of times we're just thinking of stuff on the fly anyway.
Yeah. The but at any rate tonight, well, it's night when we're putting this together. We're talking about cars. We've talked about cars before, but we're more comparing cars back in the 60s and 70s, and of course when we were originally driving, it was in the 70s,
Yeah.
but the cars we were driving were from 10 and 15 years ago because we were driving used cars like most
I'm not sure what you're
young
doing.
kids.
Of course, I'll find out. But I kind of concentrated more on specific things that I thought of that have changed
Well, yeah,
pretty
that's what I did.
significantly. Yeah.
No, that's what I did too, Ron. And
Yeah.
we're even got a song of the week again this week, so don't forget about that.
Mhm.
The first thing I've got on my list was back in the old days. Your battery, all you really used it for was to start the car, and if you got the car started, you could take the battery off. You could unhook it. In fact, I drove a car like that for an entire weekend once by running out, and when it would go dead, I would run out, lift the hood. I had another person with me to help,
Yeah.
my roommate from college, and
Mhm.
I would touch the negative pole to the post, and we'd crank it,
Yeah.
and then I'd just let the post go, and we would run back in and drive the car around. But it was just we were poking around in town. And the car was a little old, and sometimes it would stall out if you had to stop at the stoplight for too long. And of course, that's all gone away, hasn't it, Ron? Cars don't stop at stoplights anymore. No, they just stop on their own at stoplights because what 3 or 4 years worth of cars have that stupid start stop thing and. Hey,
I don't have a car new enough to do that, so
oh, well,
I
I
don't
hear
know
them when
a
I'm
damn
walking.
thing.
I hear them when I'm walking, Ron, and
Man, the
you'll be.
newest car I have is a 2014. Man, don't even go there.
Well, that's eventually going to be the car you have with those start stop things. And
I'm a
there's
couple of decades behind, man. So
there's nothing like being in a sketchy neighborhood and coming up to a stop sign and or a traffic light, and your car going quitting, and you're suddenly praying, oh, please don't let this be the time when the starter gives out. But hey, those starters are never going to give out, Ron, because they're all starters are designed to make 300 starts a day, right? Isn't that what
oh,
they're
I don't
for?
know.
300. No, I'm making all that up. They're going to give out just like the old starters did eventually when you get enough
Yeah.
starts on them. And
I know a lot about cars, but you keep asking me things I don't know squat about, man.
well, but you remember that when the battery was the radio and stuff ran on the battery, but it was
Mhm.
because it was running off the not the alternator, but the what do you call the generator? The
Yeah.
generator was running everything, and it would you didn't need a battery after you got everything started, and it was old school, but a lot of old school stuff was I think that's better.
Pretty good.
I think that once you got it started, you were in good shape. You didn't have to worry about everything dying when the battery, like if your alternator isn't working now and you jump it off, it'll jump off, but then in a mile or two, if there's nothing to recharge your battery, the car goes dead because you've got computers and all that have to have power, and they just, anyway, long story. I hated that. And another thing was dimmer switch. Have you got that? The dimmer switch being on the floor?
No. They
That was
hadn't been on
great.
the floor for a long time. Last one I had was a 1974 that had a floor dimmer switch.
Well,
the other ones are on the every one I've had since then have been on the steering wheel.
On the steering column, but didn't you prefer having the dimmer switch down on the floor?
It was more of an automatic movement.
Yeah,
that's maybe just because that's what we learned or something. I'm not sure.
Well, and if you were in a car that you weren't familiar with, and even today, if you're in a car that you're not familiar with, sometimes you can't find your dimmer switch very quickly because you don't, you just you're scrambling around and on the floor.
See, that's another situation where you're going to be in a lot more than me because since I live where there's a lot more light generally.
Yeah.
The times where I go bright, it's so rare. I have my hand on the switch and I'm hitting bright for a second so I can see, and then popping it back off for like short bursts. So, I'm not even using a dimmer switch like ever.
Ron, I just thought of something else. Back in the 60s and the 70s, your headlights kind of always worked the way they worked when you first got the car. If you hung onto a car for 5 or 10 years, the headlights were still just as bright. Now, a lot of cars have plastic headlight covers, and they start getting covered over. And
they start fogging up.
Fogging up.
You got to really clean them with. It takes you can clean them, but it's hard.
Oh, yeah. You can, but you've got to do it.
Yeah,
you got to take time to do it. You didn't have to do that. And it's getting worse. The newer cars, I've been reading articles about them, and the newer cars now it costs you. They've got this whole array of things attached to the tail lights and the headlights, and it can cost you $700 or $800 to replace your headlight once it goes.
Well, here's the thing: the reason it's like that is because I've got this on my list. Is because used to, when you changed out a headlight, you changed the whole headlamp out.
Right.
You changed the whole shebang, the glass, everything.
Then
you just put a bulb in there now.
Well, now
they're back. Quicker.
They're back to the whole shebang.
Out in front of the AutoZone, but
the most recent cars, they're back to the whole shebang again. But this time the whole shebang costs $450. Because have you been?
Well, another thing with lights too. I got to add this while we're on lights.
Okay.
Having lights, that was kind of an inherent danger of running your battery down because you always had to remember to cut those lights.
Right.
You don't have to do that anymore. Hadn't had to do that for a long time.
Well, it can if you're stupid enough to set them. Like, you got a little different modes.
Set them,
if you're dumb enough to, but if you set them on automatic, they'll turn off. And although you do have to watch out because when they're on automatic, when you get out of the car, the headlights still stay on for like 2 minutes. So if you've got a low battery, that might be just enough that it won't crank next time. But things change on cars all the time. I can remember when AC on a car was rare. Very unusual to have air conditioning on a car. What was it? 460? Roll down 4 windows and go 60 miles an hour? That's what kind of air conditioning?
Well, that's when AC became predominant. That's when they took out those little V windows.
I know.
Because that's what those were for, was for directing the air when you didn't have an AC. I mean, that's specifically what they were made for.
You know what else they were good for?
That and thumping cigarettes.
Well, when you got stopped, you could just open the little vent window and hand out your license and everything. You didn't have to roll that window down just because the cop wanted you to. And I'm kind of morally opposed to doing anything because the government wants you to.
Yeah, really.
So that it would be nice to have those just to go. I guess you can still roll it down a little, but how many times have you hit the? Do you have electric windows on your car? I guess you do, don't you, on your cars?
I do on one of them. The other two, I don't.
Oh, really? Have roll down windows still?
Yep.
They
on my pickup and on my little uh, straight shift, my manual transmission one.
Well,
I have,
they don't. I kind of hated when the roll down windows went away because I always kind of liked them. They were a little awkward, and they're not nearly as cool as pulling up somebody, hitting the button, and the window goes, and you go, "Hey, pal," or something like that. But and we all like to feel like we're as cool as we can possibly be. It sounds like the title of an album, doesn't it? As cool as I can possibly be. Hugh Lewis and the News. But but you, but the nice thing about the roll down windows was I'm pretty confident they're not going to break. It's not going to quit on me. Although I will
I never had one of those break. I have had automatic ones get off track on
I have had some issues with them, but generally I'm always surprised.
Not a lot, but
I'm always surprised at how well they do work. But still, if your battery quits, you can't roll your window down, and you get stuck with the window up, and maybe you're trying to work on something on the inside of the car, and it's just it's terrible. So I don't like. Mostly, I like the old stuff better. What have you got on your list? What's outstanding on your list?
Let's see. One of the things I was going to say when you were talking about batteries, that's one of two things as far as changing things out on a vehicle that hasn't changed since I've been driving a car is you still change your battery out exactly the same way. You may have to take some more crap off because there's more stuff that holds them in than there used to be, but changing it's exactly the same. And changing out brake pads and all that's exactly the same.
Brake pads.
I've been doing it the same for 20-something years.
Ron, you haven't heard about having to take your car in and like lining it up with a computer? That's like the last few years has been like a big thing with mechanics and customers and stuff. Is you can change the battery out still, but it doesn't last very long for some reason. I can't get into the details of it.
Yeah.
But things aren't aligned properly. There's a computer lining your car up.
So they finally jacked that up.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I am out of the loop on that. I'm kind of glad to be out of it. It makes me not even want a car.
Well, what they do, I don't know all the details of it. But your alternator is more sophisticated. The alternators now are more, at least on most cars, are more sophisticated than they used to be. And as the battery in the car gets older, the alternator charges at a different rate, which is fine until you change the battery. And then you've got an alternator that hasn't been told. If you do it yourself, you've got an alternator that has not been informed that you've changed batteries. So it starts overcharging the battery, the new battery that you put in there, and it kills it.
All I have to say is why?
Terrible. What?
Why?
Well, because of all the electronic stuff in the computers, I guess they think it runs better, but probably not a really good reason. It's just to make you go into the shop and have to pay $400 to get a battery changed.
Yeah.
What's another one on your list?
White walls. When did they go away? I'm not.
I know.
It was just one day they were gone, man.
I think. Well, I know you can still buy white letter tires.
Yeah.
But most cars look better. They're designed to look better with just a black wall. So even if you get the white letter tires, they turn them around on the inside.
Maybe it's because they disappeared about the same time as hubcaps disappeared.
that could be it.
Because there are no hubcaps anymore.
No.
You might have a little bitty thing in the center, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, hubcaps are gone, man.
Yeah, you got rims.
But that's a good thing because people were stealing hubcaps left and right.
Oh,
now they got to steal the whole damn wheel. So
it's a little harder to steal the wheel. Do you have locks on any of your?
Yep. If you're doing one car, I have lock bolts on one.
I find it annoying. But
I'm so used to it. I guess I don't even think about it.
Every once in a while, I go around to various cars that I'm in charge of keeping up with, and I will remind myself where the little key that you can use to get the lug lock off with, and I'll remind myself where they are. They should be in the glove compartment, but sometimes they they somehow managed to migrate out and get somewhere in the trunk. But so far, I haven't lost one. I think they're pretty easy to replace. But who wants to replace? You can't replace them on the side of the
Hey,
road if you can't find them.
I got one for you. What happened to you? How long did it take you to figure it out the first time you ever replaced a wiper blade after they'd gone to having to take the whole damn thing off?
Oh yeah, yeah. It. I'm pretty good at it now.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
am too
actually
now. But the
it's
first
pretty
time I did,
easy.
I was
But
like going, "Why won't this thing come out, man?"
yeah. Well, you could still take a do it the old fashioned way. Take the
Yeah,
blade off that whole arm that you
yeah.
have. But
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 it's better. It's like ting, boom. That's
well
it.
the and the nice thing is the wiper blades don't last as long, so that's an additional
Yeah,
advantage that you have to spend a premium price to get one that lasts a while.
yeah.
Um, no airbags back in the old days. You
Nope.
didn't have to worry about that little light going
Nobody
off.
wore
Although
belts either.
the
Kids
lines.
weren't in child seats either.
Yeah.
We were just bouncing around. That mother sleeping up in the back glass.
To me, this is kind of hard to articulate, but to me, the tragedy of airbags is that once again, teenagers driving older cars, the the airbag that's guaranteed to be on an older car is the driver's airbag.
Mm-hmm.
And you set up a situation where a teenager who is probably driving stupidly anyway, with a passenger in the car, the driver doing the stupid stuff, as far as I'm able to tell, is more likely to survive the accident than their passenger.
Yeah.
Kind of bad. Because now you got a guy that's driving the car, and I understand it used to be the driver was the one in the most danger because they were the ones that they ran into the steering wheel, or the steering wheel ran through them, and they were the ones that were fatally injured. But now I think it's reversed itself, and that's just I don't want to change it. The airbags do a pretty good job. Although, as I recall, when they first put them in, they tore a couple of kids' heads off, little kids, because they had the kids sitting in the front seat, and the airbag went off.
Well, I've got airbags, passenger airbags in all my vehicles. My vehicles are like 2007, 2012, 2014.
Right.
And as far as I know, they all still work perfectly because the light doesn't go off when nobody's in there. If somebody's sitting there, it goes off immediately that it's on.
Well, we have real bad pollen. We get really bad pollen, and because of the way our carport, I don't have a garage, but my carport situated, we get a lot of pollen up on the cars, and it gets up in through the breathers, and as the car brings in air. And my airbags occasionally light will go on and then go off.
Yeah.
And I think the pollen gets in there, and then as the pollen season goes on, they straighten back up. Ron, what about one thing I do appreciate about newer cars, and most things I don't, but one thing I do appreciate about newer cars or newer car equipment is the tires are way better than they used to be. Not nearly as likely to get a flat, and if you do get a flat, it's much more likely that you can get somewhere on the tire without ruin, because the tires now with the steel belts often grab a nail and will hold it in place for miles and miles.
Bolts where it sounds like a horse is clopping beside my
vehicle. That's right.
Held up.
That's right. But you can get to a lot of times you can drive it home, or a lot of times you don't realize you've got a nail in a tire until you've started noticing it going down really slowly, and then you realize, I've got to look at this thing. Back in the old days, I mean, we had flats all the time. I did.
Dude, I got home with a trimmer blade impaled in one of my tires. I was at this apartment complex, and apparently somebody's trimmer blade wasn't just the string; they had like the blade.
Right.
And it popped off, and because when I got it fixed, because when I took it off, I heard something rattle, and I'm like, what in the hell is that rattling in there? Right. When it finally went down. And the guy who, when I got my new tire, he walked out and he handed me that blade, and he was going like, man, this is what, because I told him something was in there. And he said, that's what was inside your tire, man. And it was a blade like that.
So it's really nice to have
right up into my tire.
Yeah. It's nice to have
itself long enough for me to get home. So.
The Ron, do you have? We're going to have to continue this to next week. I haven't even touched my list yet. You got how many things do you have left?
I have a few left. I
Well,
hadn't even touched on how we receive music in vehicles.
oh no, me yeah, neither
Uh,
have I. And I've got 5 or 6 things left on my list, but I'll tell you what, we're I haven't talked about cup holders or anything like that, which is a major thing now. You can fail to sell a car because it doesn't have cup holders. But I'll tell you what, let's put it off to next week and let's go straight to. We'll continue on. We'll do a part 2 on this.
yeah,
And
nobody's watching anyway.
yeah, that's right. We're I don't want to do an hour show though, just
Yeah.
to be. I think I like a nice half hour, 20-minute, 25-minute
Yeah.
show. But what's your song of the week? You said you had one.
Yeah, I had two, but I'll go ahead and do the one that's probably the most famous. Let's see. No, you know what? I'm gonna do the least famous one. What
Okay.
the heck? They were both from the same year, 1979. Anyway,
Okay.
the one I'm gonna do is by a one-hit wonder called "Sniffing the Tears," and they sang the song called "Driver's Seat." Do 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 do. Driver's seat. You remember that one?
Nope, I don't.
Whoa, driver's seat.
What was it? Was that? I mean,
And it was
that
written by
actual
Paul
hit
Roberts.
song?
It got up to number 15 in
Oh, wow.
1979.
Wow. What was I doing in '79 that was so important? Oh, well, I was in college. I was listening to the radio. I guess I just wasn't listening to the right radio stations.
You probably remember to say, if you look it up, if you look up driver's seat, you'll go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But my most well-known, I'll do to them, what the hell, is, of course, the obvious one, In Cars.
Oh, yeah.
By Gary Newman. Here
Yep.
in my car.
That's kind of the one I was thinking about, but I
Yeah.
just decided not to do one this week.
Yeah, that's why I picked driver's seat, because I figured if you did one, that would probably be the one.
Well, that was the Cars was a huge hit, and you
Yeah.
still hear it occasionally because
Yep.
it's got that nice beat that
Yeah.
radio people, talk shows, and that kind of thing like to lead into commercials
Yeah.
with and turn into bumper music. So very recognizable. I don't know, Ron. Cars have changed a lot. The thing is, just to wrap this up right now, but and we'll continue it on next week. But cars, I don't know, since about the 1930s, the world became pretty modern. You had trains, you had airplanes, you had
Mhm.
cars, you had and all those telephones, and all those things are still here. But boy, the form has changed so much, and cars have really evolved a lot lately. And we haven't even really talked about the evolution of cars. Most of it I'm not particularly fond of because it cuts down on your ability to work on cars. You still work on your car some, right?
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
the
me-
brakes on them.
Yeah,
I don't have to do them very often because I do such a good job.
Yeah, well, I don't. I just don't brake very hard, and
Yeah.
even though you have almost all my cars now. I do have one that's still straight shift, but they've got those little shifters where you can cut. You can change the gear like when you're going downhill and you don't have to brake.
Mhm.
And I've gotten in the habit of using that. It really cuts back on how often you have to change the brakes. And I don't go 75 miles an hour right up to the stop sign and then skid like most people do. I actually
my
slow
very
down.
favorite innovation, my favorite
What?
of all, the one thing they changed that's awesome.
What?
How many miles you can go once you put the gas in?
That's true. Right.
That's my favorite.
Right.
It's not even close. That's my favorite.
Even pickups and things like that get pretty decent gas
Yeah.
mileage now compared to because we used to get 12 miles to the gallon, 14
Yeah.
miles to the gallon was about the best you could hope to
Yeah.
do.
But it's like
And
you
in
go like,
town.
well, you're going somewhere and you're going, well, I got about 100 miles to go to get to that city. But hey, it's cool. I got 175. I can go on until I have to gas up. So we're cool. I
Yeah.
probably won't have to go and get gas until I get up in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron, we're going to talk about this again, but for right now, we're going to call a halt to it. And this is the end of Boomer Bongo Boulevard. I'm Mike Just Mike. Along with me is Ron Just Ron. And next week, we'll talk about cars a little more.
And I'll slap it up in park and we'll go.